What do you think this week should be remembered for?
Is this the week we learnt that the pen pal is mightier than the sword?
Prepare for landing, the pilot announced. I pressed the off button on my Walkman and gazed out the window, hoping to catch a glimpse of New York City in the distance. My heart pounded with excitement. I was 26 years old, and while I had traveled everywhere in Europe, I had never been on a journey quite like this. This was America.
Melania Trump, or an officially endorsed AI version of her anyway, reading from her audiobook Melania, available now at melaniatrump.com. Felicity, why are First Ladies in the news?
Well, several of them have started penning letters to one another. So on Saturday, the Turkish First Lady Emine Erdogan wrote to US President Donald Trump's wife Melania, urging her to get in touch with Israel's Prime Minister and raise the plight of children in Gaza. The letter was published by the Turkish presidency. The First Lady said that Gaza had become a children's cemetery, and she was telling Melania, we must unite our voices and strength against this injustice. And this follows a pattern. So when the Russian President Vladimir Putin met Trump in Alaska, Trump handed him a letter from Melania. It was a peace letter highlighting the impact that his war in Ukraine was having on Ukraine's children. And she implored him to think of children and an innocence which stands above geography, government, and ideology. And on top of that, the First Lady of Ukraine then wrote to Melania thanking her for her comments for getting involved in the plight of Ukraine's children. And it just struck me as really interesting that all these First Ladies have decided to write letters to one another.
Yeah, although, I mean, quite nice. I mean, from a diplomatic point of view, I think I prefer a world where, ladies write letters to each other arguing for the safety of children. It seems like quite a good pace to operate international affairs at.
Certainly. I mean, I think it's sort of, I found it very intriguing because I find Melania Trump in particular a very interesting person, but more broadly, the role and the position and the power of First Ladies, I think is a fascinating one. Like, how much power are they wielding behind the scenes? Melania is a particularly interesting case because she seems to be a very take it or leave it First Lady. Like, she will only get involved in things when she wants to, which, to her credit, I think it shows that she does actually genuinely really care about the plight of children.
Yeah, and gives it more power, perhaps. Yeah,
exactly. I think it gives it more power, but it's very interesting the comments about her presence. There was a disclosure in late May that she has spent less than a fortnight in the White House since her husband's second inauguration. So she will pick and choose what she wants to do, but I think that makes it more telling that she decided to let Putin know how she feels.
Although I suppose that can be reputationally problematic for these partners, can't it, Harriet? We were just hearing that clip from Melania's website where you can also buy her jewellery and her Christmas ornaments and things, and there's very much an image that she's trying to project with all this stuff. And of course it's easy to say, well, why do you care about the children of Ukraine but you don't care about the children of Gaza? Why do you write a letter about this but not a letter about that? In a way, it's easier not to write any letters at all if you just want to be an image.
Yeah, it's a difficult balance with this because on the one hand, it seems to sort of reek of internalized misogyny to paint this picture of the woman behind the scenes manipulating the man like a sort of Machiavellian puppet master. But on the other hand, it's patronizing and it's frankly unconvincing to suggest that these women, who broadly speaking are worldly, well-traveled, intelligent women, don't and shouldn't have opinions on what their spouses do, and their spouses are also their elected leaders. It seems unrealistic that they wouldn't have an influence. On the other hand, in the case of Melania Trump, it's all well and good for her to be kind of sending this letter, and the only real opinion or cause that anybody's ever seemed to be able to attach to her was when she visited Africa in 2018 and spoke of her pride in the work of the USAID program tackling disease and hunger among children. And Trump has since dismantled the USAID program. And the other thing that we sort of a little bit kind of know about her is that she is pro-abortion rights, supposedly. And Trump has been absolutely instrumental in dismantling the access to abortion and reproductive rights in the US and broader across the world.
Yeah, but you could argue that from the other perspective, couldn't you? You could say maybe dismantling them not as far as he or the Republicans would have liked. Maybe she's had an influence there.
Yes, but we also know from interviews with former security advisors and analysts and former people in his last government that Trump basically tends to listen to whoever he met last, like whatever pops into his head. We know that that Laura Loomer, a sort of conspiracy theorist to the max, is someone that he apparently listens to a lot. There's something maybe that he saw on Fox News or a tweet or whatever. He's utterly mercurial and inconsistent, and frankly, it's a fool's game trying to fathom any strategy or intentionality.
Letters, though, Jamie, they are, as I was indicating, quite a slow way of communicating. Are they effective? I wonder if they'd be more effective if they weren't published, if we didn't know about them. Maybe there are communications going on that we don't know about.
I'm a big fan of letter writing. I don't do it enough.
Is this you fishing for a letter from Melania?
Actually, from you, Ollie. What I wanted to say is just wow. Wow. Yeah, sure. Another excellent podcast from you, JT. I think there's obviously is, we know from like diaries and releases of in the archives that there are letters being, or in history, letters written all the time between people, particularly like within the context of first ladies and political spouses. I wonder whether there's a kind of pageantry or a kind of showing off sense. I mean, it's interesting to see the way in which first ladies, I think, or first ladies' first spouses have changed. There was that old Dennis Thatcher quote about being Maggie Thatcher's husband, of being always present but never there. And I think now that's kind of less the case. Carrie Johnson kind of was accused, kind of fairly or unfairly, of shaping Boris Johnson's priorities. Sarah Brown was like massive voice on maternal health and children's welfare when she was when Gordon Brown was Prime Minister. And then obviously Philip May, the general election in 2017, he seemed to have quite a big role in getting Theresa May to call it, or at least have the conversation. I think there's more of an expectation now, or certainly more scrutiny on the role of first spouse. And I think that's part of to use another British example, that's part of the interesting thing about Keir Starmer, is the fact that his wife Victoria has really eschewed the public and the media, and that's, I would say, slightly pissed off quite a lot of the media, that they can't get to know more about her and about her views and everything. And there's a kind of, I would say, desire now, because of the role that Michelle Obama has played, that we desperately need to know the opinions and the morals of the spouses of political leaders, and you wonder kind of how necessary or productive that is.
I mean, it does vary from country to country, doesn't it, Felicity? I know that the First Lady of the United States has no sort of official role, or she's able to say what she wants to do or doesn't. Would be the same for a First Man, but of course there's no historical precedent there. But at least they have a presidential system, so they're on the campaign trail. You are voting for this couple to live in the White House. It's different in the UK and in other parliamentary democracies, isn't it? Keir Starmer's wife, yes, did choose not to be part of the limelight, but also shouldn't be part of that process. You're electing your local constituency MP when you vote. They don't have a role. Yeah,
sure, but I mean, as Jamie was saying, people take such a great interest in the first ladies, in the first spouse, that they're not a democratically elected figure, but it would be stretching incredulity to suggest that they obviously are not going to have a massive influence on their partner who does hold all the power. And I think that's fine. I mean, certainly in the case of the Trumps, I think Donald Trump is getting to the point where he finds it very hard to trust anyone around him. He has... And the same with Melania. I mean, she's been badly burnt by having a couple of staffers who have recorded things she's said and then published them in a book. So I wonder whether, I mean, this is very, very kind of gossipy speculation from me, but I wonder whether they're actually getting closer as a married couple and trusting each other one or more because they don't trust the people around them so much. And I find that fascinating. And in terms of soft power, I mean, soft power is quite powerful, really. I mean, off the back of Melania's letter to Putin, the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer both raised the issue of stolen children during a recent summit. And I mean, just in terms of their reach and their popularity, the First Lady of Ukraine has 2.7 million Instagram followers, and she posed for British Vogue at one point. But in her British Vogue article, she talked a lot about, again, the plight of Ukrainian children. So people are very, very interested in these figures, and they can use that to their advantage.
I guess it's just human as well, isn't it, Harriet? I mean, first ladies have something in common with each other, which is they all understand what it means to be the spouse of an important person. And at a dinner where they're sitting opposite each other, perhaps for hours, making small talk, some of them are going to hit it off. I mean, that is a useful connection to make, isn't it? Especially when their partners aren't hitting it off.
Absolutely. And there's plenty of evidence to suggest that women and female leaders are far more successful in conflict resolution and negotiations than male leaders. Like, there is a lot of data to back that up. And clearly the male leaders aren't doing such a great job of conflict resolution and violence reduction. So in that sense, maybe the women have a better shot, like statistically speaking. But I think in the case of the UK Prime Ministers and the UK Prime Minister's spouse, and Victoria Starmer in particular, you are sort of damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, because Carrie Johnson she was absolutely pilloried by the media for being this supposed kind of praying mantis behind the scenes, like deciding everything for the poor, weak, malleable Boris Johnson, which, I'm not going to comment on whether or not that's true, but the fact is that was how she was painted, like some sort of Lady Macbeth figure. And then you also have such criticism of Victoria Starmer for being supposedly like taking a backseat, staying out of the limelight, keeping quiet. And I think that does show that really, as a female spouse of the UK Prime Minister, there is nothing that you can do that is going to protect you from criticism from the media. There's too much interest, and there's just too much sexism in the way that we speak about them, that it doesn't really matter what she does or doesn't do. She's still going to be criticised for it either way.
I don't remember too much negative press for Rishi Sunak's wife. But then she was always very elegantly dressed.
She was also
the very sexism you're talking about.
Criticised over and over and over again for conflicts of interest with regards to her investments and with regards to the money.
But that's not her
she was
personality.
Investigated, yes, but you can't say that she wasn't scrutinised. She was scrutinised to the nth degree.
Okay. Well, here's a fun fact for you. This topic of first spouses was in fact covered before on The Week Unwrapped. In our first ever episode, here is what Arian McNichol said about First Ladies in January 2017.
And to be fair to Melania, she's already spelled out a political direction that she wants to take, which is to end online bullying hilariously, because, given who her husband is and what he does, it's a remarkable thing for her to
no
want
stranger
to stop
to
it.
the subject.
But I guess she's close to the source, so she can really impact that firsthand.
There you go. So I guess, Felicity, the question is, has much changed since 2017? We can be having this exact conversation in another 8 years' time. What's the point of First Ladies?
Yeah, I mean, back then, I feel her reputation has changed between the two presidencies. I mean, she was absolutely ridiculed, wasn't she? I mean, she had the campaign which was Be Better, that everyone just took the piss out of relentlessly. I think now, maybe with this letter writing and this, what seems to be a genuine concern for children around the world, perhaps she is changing her image slightly. But yeah, watch this space.
Well, if she wants to come on the show, or if 11 Labs want to lend us the AI version of Melania, she can come on the show without lifting a finger. Then she can reply.